Alright, so welcome to video 2 of my Let's Play. It's actually the third, because my second one, I recorded it, but the video got pretty messed up. So I might release that with the proviso that it's terrible, or I might not. The second video had a simple orbital flight. It was short, it was one orbit. I didn't do any EVAs or anything. You can see in the archives what I got. Oh, I did. Oh no, that was from the first one. Crew report from upper atmosphere and some crew reports from in space, and it actually was highly eccentric. Yeah. So that got me a bit more tech, which got me critically the Science Junior, which will get me more science, so the rest of this will be a little faster. I think I already had that one, but it got me survivability too, which gives me more batteries and parachutes and lots of life support things that I won't need yet, because I have no way of doing long duration missions without when I'm on batteries anyways. So the one other thing, I'm gonna grab stability so I get radial decouplers, because radial decouplers are awesome. So for this video, I will try to explain a little better what I'm doing and why. So it's not just like the last one where I was just like, here, I'm gonna launch a thing, watch me launch a thing, woo. So, I'm going to put the engineer on here, and that's one of the things that will be most useful in explaining things. Put Science Junior on there for the science, put a couple of Mr. U's on. I have found in the past that the one parachute is not quite enough for a capsule with a science module. So, oops, the engineer's in the way a little bit. So as I say, the one parachute isn't enough for a capsule with a science module, so I'm going to add some radial parachutes. With the two radial parachutes, I wouldn't actually need the third central one. Why is that still not attaching? Something's wrong there. Okay. So yes, I say with the two radials, I wouldn't actually need the center one, but since it's also a nose cone and not very heavy, I'm just going to add it anyways. Since with FAR, the profile of your craft actually does matter. Ferrum Aerospace, which is one of the mods in the mod stack, has a much more realistic drag model. Instead of just every part having a coefficient of drag that has the angle of attack be irrelevant, they're actually, a part. This is a lot more streamlined going up than it is going sideways, and will, first of all, it'll stay stable going up, and secondly, it'll have a lot less drag. Oops. That's one of my other things, is the parts catalog, tag editor and things, which I don't really need for such a small craft. The music today, which you may not, you've probably noticed, is Jarek's vinyl scratch through your pony album, and I recommend you all go get Jarek's albums, because they're awesome, and pay him for them in hard copy if you meet him at Everfree, because he'll probably have some. Put decoupler there. Alright, Alright, so this is my space module. It's fairly simple. It's got some batteries, mystery ooze, a science module, the capsule, parachutes, and the engineer, and it has a heat shield, and then the decoupler. So that's all there is to it. I'm going to add my propulsion stack. The Vesta, even though it's fairly low thrust. So right now this craft, you'll note engineer gives me very useful data that I could have calculated myself, but this saves me a lot of time. The thrust to weight ratio of the thing right now. And so you can see with 1.01, technically it will get off the ground, but it won't get very far off the ground. It'll take forever to accelerate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of these marvelous radial decouplers. And put some solid boosters on it. Alright, and not mess up the staging. We're supposed to fire together. So now you can see the thrust-to-weight ratio of 2.77 is enormous. The fuel optimal is somewhere between 1.5 and 1.7, I think. Above that, you're losing a lot to drag. So one of the things I'm going to thrust limit the solid rocket boosters, call it 50% for now, 49%. It's still a little high. I'll put them down to 33%. So that means they'll burn 3 times longer, but have only a third the thrust while they're burning. So you'll note the time increased from 21 seconds to 65 seconds. And thrust-to-weight ratio is down to 1.4. And you'll also note it's being very smart in calculating the thrust-to-weight ratio of the central stage after it's burned all the fuel that it will in a minute 5. That's higher. I haven't taken any weight off of the central stage, but I have increased the burn time of the solid rocket boosters. So we'll note that the total there is over 4,500. This is far more than enough to make orbit. This is actually extravagantly enormous. With a rocket that's this streamlined, and which I'll be turning so that when my turn goes, the side with more surface area will be pointed up rather than sideways, so it will actually turn some of the drag into lift. It's not a very big effect, but every little bit helps. But as I say, I mean, this is an enormous amount of TWR, and I'm actually a bit concerned if the center of thrust is too far below the center of mass. It means that steering it by that gimbal is really risky, because it's like balancing a pencil on your thumb. You make a tiny adjustment at the bottom, and it makes a huge adjustment further up, where all the weight is. So I'm going to take one of these fuels off, because I think I have more than enough without it. Which brings the center of mass a little closer. Also pumps the thrust-to-weight ratio up, and I didn't lose very much delta V at all taking that fuel off. And one final thing I'm going to do, because I forgot it, is I'm going to add a couple of retro rockets here for my deorbit burn. Oops. It's still not, there's something about this that it's not liking. Alright. Put those there. Those are just to take the capsule out of orbit once it's up there. And I mean, they've got a tiny delta V, it's just 46, but that's enough to bring a stable orbital path into an atmospheric path that'll bring it back down. So, I think I've explained some things. Oh right, I didn't actually explain what delta V is, so I'll do that while I'm launching. I'll call it Crusader 2, because I think I called the one that I did in the failed video Crusader 1. Just do a final check. Batteries, parachutes. It's the same layout. Alright. So, to explain what delta V is, the delta V of the craft is the amount of total acceleration that its engines can provide before it runs out of fuel. So, because this involves accelerating the remaining fuel as well as the dry weight of the craft, there's a little bit of complexity to calculating it. So, I mean, it's enough that I could do it during craft design, but having it during flight is awesome, and I wouldn't be able to do that. Not in real time. Well, not without a computer-assisted tool like this. So, to reach Kerbin orbital velocity, the orbital velocity for a low Kerbin orbit is about 2,200 meters per second. So, if I lacked that, then I would know I couldn't make orbit. Because Kerbin has an atmosphere, I need quite a bit more than that to get through the lower atmosphere. I'm actually going to start pitching over already. Whoa. Why is that? That's not the direction I wanted to pitch over. What? Right, because I rotated it. All my directional things are not the usual. So that was up, and I've had solid rocket burnout. Alright, so now I'm actually having trouble keeping it this far down. It's actually trying to right itself, which is okay, because at this point it can still be going up. I think I'm past max Q. Where's my flight data? Yes, I'm well past max Q. So I'm high enough in the atmosphere now that the atmospheric marginal pressure is dropping rather than raising. My ascent profile. Oh, that's a high vertical speed. Okay. So I want to get more horizontal speed, because I'm already at the point where my apoapsis is well above. This is going to be an enormously... I've got far more fuel than I need, but... Seal node, I make that maneuver node, and I do it. Try to move it so that it's fuel optimal. That's close enough. Tiny adjustment in where I do the burn will result in a huge difference in everything is, but so it's fairly circular, and it's going to be a 1 minute 18-second burn, which I'm pretty sure. Well, so I can see, to do that burn, I'm going to need 1,500 delta V, and I still have 1,700, so, yeah. It's not hugely more, but it is quite a bit more than I needed. And because of the time it takes to do the burn, I'm going to start it now. About 2/3 of the burn time should be before the node, with about 1/3 after. Because it accelerates faster as it burns more fuel. So the last bit of the burn provides more acceleration per second than the first part. So one of the marvelous things about Engineer is, before I had Engineer, to see my apoapsis and periapsis height I was doing things like this during launch. I'm like, alright, I'm here. Whereas now I could just stay in the craft view, and I can see when my periapsis reaches the point where I want it to be. Oh, it's drifting a little bit downwards. Almost there. So I did the burn a little bit early, but that's okay. I'll cut it there. So, there we are. We have a simple craft in orbit. With that node, it's not perfectly circular, but it doesn't have to be. So that's fairly simple demonstration. So now I can do some science up here. Oh right, I forgot in my second flight I had done a mystery view observation. So we'll do a new one now. I might erase that one for an upper atmosphere one later. So I've got my science bay, has done a material study, which is worth 25 science when I recover it, which is not bad. I could do a crew report, but I don't think it's worth anything. Yeah, I've already got one for in space near Kerbin. One thing I can do is farm science by getting EVA reports over different biomes. So there I've got one over water. And now I'll just accelerate time a little bit. And it looks like I'm over something other than water. It's hard to tell in the dark. Yeah, grasslands. So EVA report over the grasslands. Dum-de-dum. I'll accelerate some more to get into the daylight side. I also do have to mind my... Oh, speaking of minding my power consumption, I'm going to take off the autopilot because that uses a little bit of power. Oh, I did... Okay, I have pretty big batteries on this. It's not really a concern for 2 or 3 orbits, but one of the things that makes it harder with this is that I do have this life support. So you'll see with what the craft carries, it's got... At launch, it has 1 day's worth of food, water, and air. And my battery power is not quite a day's worth, but 4 hours is plenty for a couple orbits. And you'll notice each orbit I'm doing now is just over half an hour. So, I mean, an 8-orbit mission might be a little long, but a 4-orbit mission is just fine. And also, you can survive for an hour without any one of the things. On, whatever's left in the craft. The electricity for life support, it's the theoretical thing that it's doing is heat. When that runs out, it'll get cold, but it takes a while for it to get cold enough that it's actually deadly cold. So I can see daylight, and I think I might be over Highlands here. Yes, I am. Get more EVA reports. See if I can get one over Mountain, but Mountain is a pretty small biome. I have to be further south, I think, to do it. Yeah, it's still over Highlands. So I can only one EVA report from each biome is useful, or from over each biome really is useful. So that's. My basic thing right now is just to get as many of the ones from equatorial orbit as I can, which are practical, so I'll get a desert one over here. Or actually a little further over than this, but I think there might be a small mountain. Try to grab it. Oh no, it's Highlands again. But I know there's some desert down there. And I think I still need shores as well. So I'll try to catch it just as it's going over water, which is kind of difficult in the night. You can see it's hard to tell exactly where you're over.
Get ready to fly.
And of course the ground is, passing beneath me at 2.2 kilometers per second, which is pretty fast clip. Especially when I time accelerate it so that it's 5 times as fast. Well, not 5 times as fast, but so the time elapsed is 5 times as fast. Alright, there we go. So I've got each biome. I actually don't need the retro rockets because I have enough fuel left in the tank here. I've got more fuel left in the tank than the retro rockets will provide. But just to demonstrate to do things properly, I'll jettison my engine module. So that's going to stay up here in orbit as debris, which is, if I was... I could have brought it down with me, but I wanted to demonstrate the use of solid rocket boosters as retro rockets. So one thing that's wonderful about my mod stack, I'm going to come down on the day side and try to come down. Okay, I've had some splashdowns. This one's going to be a slow descent, so I can afford, I think, to make a ground landing. So I'm going to try to come down over the edge of this large continent. So, one of the mods that I have is Precise Node, and Precise Node lets me do things like input an exact amount of delta V for a burn. So I could say negative, oh right, I have to put in 46 and then make it negative. So if I do a fully retrograde burn with those, there, that brings my periapsis there down to 35 kilometers, which is just right for an atmospheric descent safe. I'm going to bring it back a little ways, though, because I was being stupid about where to put the node to land on that continent. And I might actually have to, well, I mean, that's, as I get into this part, it's going to start slowing down. I suspect this will come down in the sea here, which, I mean, it's fine if I want to do that. I'll just do that retrograde burn here. Alright, I did have them facing down, right? I've had a few of the times I've had the retro rockets facing up, so the burn direction is reversed, and I don't want to mess that up because I have nothing else to bring me down, and that would just put me in a higher orbit. And I would kill Jeb. It would be terrible. So there we go, burnout. Right. I forgot about the fact that the solid rocket boosters do underburn just a little bit from what they estimate. But so there goes my engine continuing on its high orbit, and I've slowed down now. Only by a tiny bit, only by 40 meters per second, but that's enough to bring my periapsis down into the atmosphere, well into the atmosphere. So I'm just trying to accelerate now until I hit ammo. That's prograde. I want to make sure I'm facing retrograde, because that's the way the heat shield is facing, and that's also one of my 2 aerodynamically stable profiles. And if I get it facing, if I'm facing, down with a capsule forward, it'll be stable there, and it'll be mighty hard to turn it around once the airstream gets serious. And once the airstream gets serious, there's going to be heat there that's not going to be shielded by that heat shield under me. So I'm going to just use physics acceleration here. until I'm a little bit lower in the atmosphere. I think that's still gonna, yeah, it still counts as in space, so I'm not gonna take it. I'll take it in the upper atmosphere, my second goo. Up. So I want to let it, I want to keep the autopilot off to let the aerodynamics take over, because it will stabilize itself here. That goo reading now, oh, it still counts as in space, which is interesting, because, I mean, this is well into the upper atmosphere. Oh, there we go. I bet that was it. Oh, it's still in space. So even though I've slowed down enough that my apoapsis is now below the atmosphere and my periapsis is below the surface, it's still counting me as in space, which is interesting. This is a pretty gentle descent through when I put it at 40,000. There'll be more heat effects in a little bit, but I didn't have to shed all that much energy relatively from that kind of low orbit. If I was coming in from a lunar descent, a direct lunar descent, there'll be quite a bit more energy to shed. So I got an upper atmosphere one already too, which is unfortunate. Oh, I don't have a crew report from upper atmosphere, so I'll take that. Oh, right, because I can only store one crew report. I'll note here, with deadly reentry, it actually, it's really neatly done. It uses the illumination model in the game, which determines the visual-only heat effects, and it actually uses that model for where the heat is being generated. So I can see, my mystery goo containment units are up to 200 degrees. My command pod's up to 96, which is, I mean, it's warm, but it's well within tolerances. And the heat shield is staying at just above 400, and it's ablating away. There's bits of it falling off, and that's what it's meant to do. So those two goo units are the one concern, because they're not directly in the shielding, but their temperature's already coming down. See there, I haven't been really looking at my flight data, but there it is. You can see that's an enormous amount of atmospheric pressure. It's still increasing. Oh, there we go. Now it's dropping as my speed really starts to shed. And look at that. Just as I planned it, somewhat haphazardly, I'm coming down over the grasslands in this continent. Thing I might do here, one from the upper atmosphere that's only worth 1.6 science. I'm going to reset that one. You can see flying at Kerbin is worth 7, which is quite a bit more. So keep that. I might erase the one from in space with one for grasslands, which might also be there. There goes the heat shield. It was held onto the craft by atmospheric resistance until the parachutes opened, at which point the resistance was not enough to keep it up. Flight, just accelerate the parachute descent a little bit because 4.8 meters per second is torturously slow to go 500 meters or more. Although I don't like hitting things under physics acceleration, so I will take the acceleration off before I make touchdown. There we are. Jeff is waving. We'll also just take EDA here. That's not really quite right, but I'll take it. Get 5 science for getting an EDA report for flying over Kerbin, even though that's landed. Oh no. Oh, I've done it now, haven't I? Because I can't get back up. Can't get back up. I've fallen and I can't get up. Well, I will. Oops. Why can't he take a surface? Whoa. The surface is being a little weird here. Yep. Looks like dirt. And I'll overwrite my EDA report, because this one is more legit. And then I'll return it. So there's a fairly simple flight. So thank you for joining me. I'll try to make the next one more entertaining. My goal for this one was to fix the volume issues and to make it more educational. I don't know if I've done that. I've kind of rambled a bit. I don't think I've explained things clearly, but what have you.